The Nissan Armada is all new for 2025, and in this video I'll talk about the exterior changes, the interior changes, take it for a drive and see what it's like out on the road, as well as talking about the kind of fuel economy you can most likely expect, and also the pricing and how it compares to the competition these days. So as far as the exterior design here on the Armada, I think it's a really nice evolution from the prior generation, and is a nice look up front there. I don't think it's super distinctive, it does kind of blend in with the segment I think a little bit, although there is now a Pro 4X version which gives you bolder looks if that's something that you're looking for, as well as more off-road capability, and that one's going to be the one that gives you the most ground clearance, the best approach angle, departure angles, all that. But this one here is a Platinum Reserve. This is the top trim, and these still though all go up with ground clearance. Now, they max out around 9.6 inches of ground clearance thanks to the air suspension that can raise up about 2 inches or so. It's also, now you can see in these images, a little bit lower there. It can lower itself about 2 inches to help with getting in and out of the vehicle a little easier and loading cargo. But as far as the other touches up front here, I like that chrome strip that goes across the grille. It almost looks like it could be illuminated, but it isn't. Maybe we'll get that for the refresh or something, but it's a really nice look up front here. Coming down to the sides, you also have some more visual appeal here with these fender vents and also that D-pillar there in the back, very distinctive to give you that floating roof look, and the option here for this two-tone combo of the black roof, which you can get on some of the colors and some of the trims there. And I think it gives this more of an interesting side profile than some of the competitors, and is a really nice look, I think. And out back, also, again, kind of a nice evolution there. Not super distinctive in my opinion either, but really nice. And you do have a light bar that goes all the way across the full width of the back end there. So that looks good. Speaking of width though, that's the other big change, is dimensionally, even though this vehicle is actually on the same wheelbase as before and is only about 0.7 inches longer, so basically identical as far as length goes, but width is up about 3 inches wider than the old generation, which is impressive. It's also about 1 inch taller, which is cool too, but overall, I mean, it's just a very nice look, I think. And yeah, some nice colors here too, having this dark burgundy kind of red, a dark blue, and some really nice color combos on the inside as well. So let's check out that interior. The interior in the Armada is a really nice place to be. Nissan recently especially has done such a good job of making everything feel so plush, and in this especially, this is the Platinum Reserve in here, so fully loaded. I mean, really soft touch materials everywhere. Everything is wrapped, and just everything feels so nice and very luxurious. It's really impressive. So first thing, sitting down in these seats, you have these quilted leather seats here, and you even get quilted leather seats on as low as the SL trim, so the second from the bottom. Even that one gets quilted seats. But here in this, I love the color combos you have with the lighter brown and the dark brown. You can of course get a regular black, and there's also a cream color if you want something even lighter. But really just so nice. And these are also the zero gravity seats that Nissan has. And these seats in any Nissan, they're always so good for long distance comfort. But just even the first time you sit down in this vehicle, just sit in one at a dealer, I think you'll be pretty impressed. It's just like so soft, and I love the seats in these Armadas and Nissans in general, but really well done here as well. They're heated and ventilated here in these upper trims, and this one, even for the Platinum Reserve, has a massage function. Now, it's a basic massage. It just basically plays around the lumbar area there, nothing very advanced. Not bad to have, it certainly will help to loosen you up a little bit on a long drive, but don't expect any kind of, super advanced massage, but still nice to have nonetheless. The steering wheel is really nice here as well. It's a little bit of a thicker wheel, but it has a great 9-3 grip and nice little 10-2 notches. It's a little bit of a thicker wheel, but not so much that you have to struggle to, have a good grip on it. Like if you have smaller hands, you'll still be able to grip it really well. And I love the materials, again, metal and contrast stitching here. Now you do have the capacitive touch, components here on it. I don't love that because you do need to look down and see what you're pressing, at least for a while, until you build up the muscle memory there. But just a little scroller wheel here to control basic stuff. It's easy enough to use, and I have no complaints with it, honestly. Totally fine. And then moving on to these screens, so you have these really impressive screens here in these top versions. Now you will go down to a 12.3 inch double 12.3 inch displays on the base SV and the SL trim, but here for Platinum, the Pro 4X, and the Platinum Reserve, you will get these double 14.3 inch screens. And either way, they're going to be really nice screens. I haven't played around with the smaller screen, but they're really well done. So first off, as far as the gauge cluster portion of it here, it's pretty familiar Nissan menus and, the view there. You can change it to get rid of the dials if you want, just have all the information laid out. That's a little busy to me, so I personally like this a little bit better. But, you're just scrolling through your basic stuff there in the middle. It has like the off-road little page if you want to see that. Torque split, and then all the other usual trip info and, audio info and stuff. But really nice gauges, and I like them a lot. Now, you also do have a head-up display here, only in the Platinum Reserve, and that is actually a really nice feature, especially on the highway when you're using the driver assistance stuff. It does a really good job of letting you know what it's doing, what it's helping you with, and keeping you informed. So I do really like having the head-up display. Head-up displays, in my opinion, though, aren't a must-have feature. So, don't think you're missing out too much if you don't get that and you go for a lower trim, but nice to have nonetheless. And then coming over to the middle here, the other portion of this screen is really well done. It's very high resolution. I love that there's a little bit of a shelf here to rest your hand on, so you're not having to constantly be holding your hand up while you're poking at the screen. You can rest your hand here, hit the buttons you need to hit, and it's all nicely arranged, easy to do. It does have wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and it also has Google built in on everything, even as low as the SL trim. So only the base trim doesn't have the Google built-in thing. All the other ones do, and that means you have like Google Maps built in here. And I love that they're also using the satellite imagery. GM, like, they just use the regular map function. They don't have the satellite imagery. So I love the satellite here, but I also love that, it's just Google Maps. It's very easy to use, very quick and responsive. All the other Google stuff, you have Google Assistant, you have the Google Play Store. So if you want to natively run apps, you can download them into the car itself and sign in and then have all that built in without having to pair your phone up if you want. And has Amazon Alexa built in, and even tuning radio stations, things like that, all nice and easy and simple. Again, familiar menu structure to other Nissans over the past couple of years, but it's really well done. Another cool thing you'll find on this screen is the controls for the dash cam that you have here on these higher trims, and I really love that. I think dash cams are a great thing for anyone to have in general, but I love that it's built into the vehicle. It's an OEM integration here. It's not some aftermarket thing dangling off your windshield. And it's also really smart with the way it's set up, because obviously it will be always recording, but you can have it, take snapshots for you here if you want, or just record a fun drive you want to record. You can do that here, and it'll put it onto an SD card, in the vehicle, and you can copy that over or whatever. But also it has an interior camera, which can be helpful in certain instances as well, especially security related stuff. But the cool thing is that whenever you have the car hooked up to the Nissan app, you're actually able to, for example, if you thought like, oh, maybe I forgot something in the car, you can pull up your Nissan app remotely and view the interior of your vehicle and see, oh yeah, I left my bag in the back seat, or I, left something here in the center console, whatever. You can do that. I've never seen a car company do that before, and that's a really smart, not very technically advanced thing, but just a well thought out little feature. It's like, that'll come in really handy for those times when you really, really would like to have something like that. It's great that they do that. So anyway, just really well thought out with some of the execution of some of these cool little features here in this. Also, this screen displays these camera views, which are fantastic. There's a through the hood view, so you can see like where your tires need to be if you're going through a car wash or other tight navigating kind of scenarios, and that can take up the entire screen, like, and not only just the main screen, but also take over most of the gauge cluster screen as well, and have a massive view there if you really want to have that, especially off-roading in the Pro 4X version. That's something that really comes in handy, and so a really cool thing that they give. I've never seen a car that uses both screens for that one display. Another very creative, thoughtful thing that they, integrated here. And the one other thing to mention about this whole infotainment setup is this Klipsch stereo. So it's a 12 speaker, 600 watt stereo, and it comes on everything except the base trim. So even an SL gets this stereo. And I gotta tell you, in this arms race we have these days of, speaker counts and wattage counts, that's this new bragging rights thing, in a lot of these luxurious vehicles. This, doesn't wow you with the specs, but man, this is a really good sounding stereo for just 12 speakers and just 600 watts. It shows that, those numbers don't always translate into an amazing experience, because this, does an amazing experience with less of those numbers to brag about there. And I listened to a good amount of music here in this vehicle this morning, and I mean, even when you crank it up, it's so clear and crisp with the audio. And I think that's the thing, you know, there's some others that maybe have a little bit more of a gimmick with the 3D thing where it's a little bit more immersive. I don't think this is the most immersive thing in this segment. I think maybe the Macintosh stereo and the Wagoneer might have a little bit more of an advantage there, but the clarity here is, I think, probably second to none. It's certainly better than anything you get in a Chevy with those Bose stereos just not being super impressive in my opinion. And I think even, I haven't tried out the new Expedition, but you know, the past Ford stereos, nothing has held a candle to this. It is really a top-notch stereo, and the fact that, you know, basically everyone gets it aside from base trim buyers is also kind of surprising. Usually most companies lock out, you know, a branded premium stereo for just, you know, the top trims or some expensive option. Not so in this, and so everyone gets a fantastic sounding stereo, really. And it's impressive, you know. And honestly, like, even I sampled the Infiniti QX80 for a whole week, and that has a clip stereo that has double the speaker count and like double the wattage, and certainly that sounds very nice as well. But I don't think that that's double the stereo of this, not even close. This is, I think, actually pretty close to the Infiniti from a sound quality standpoint. And yeah, I was not expecting to be like blown away, but this is a really, really good stereo. And then moving up beyond the screen here, you have physical controls, and this is a difference from the Infiniti QX80 that's, you know, on this same platform, is that, you know, that has a screen down here. Instead, with this, you have physical buttons. Now, I have to say, I don't love that it's all piano black. You know, that's the kind of stuff that usually attracts a lot of dust and scratches and fingerprints, but they're physical buttons. And in an age where everything is screen overload, I think this is going to sell a lot of Armadas alone. Just the fact that you have all these physical controls, and it's great. Nice big volume knob at the top, nice big mode selector, little toggles here for your climate. Now, unfortunately, this looks nicer than it actually feels. These are just plastic, even though they look like they're metal. And you have your, you know, four-wheel drive controls and, you know, gear selectors there. But I really love we have some actual buttons here. Moving on beyond that, as far as storage space here in the Armada, it's really well done too. So in the doors here, you have pockets that aren't the largest in the segment, I don't think, but, you know, they work just fine. And then in the middle here, you do have a little pass-through underneath here with a power outlet in there as well. You can, you know, stash a few little things. And then up top here, you have a Qi wireless charging pad and everything except the base version. And that's actually been really good. I've used this all morning, and it's been giving me reliable wireless charging, which you'd be amazed how many wireless charging pads in cars don't actually work very well. This one does. So that's actually a notable, you know, good job by Nissan. They implemented that well. You'll also see your two USB-C jacks in there, cup holders here, and a little cover as well. And all this trim here, like, you know, this looks like it's like open pore wood, but this definitely is more plasticky, I think. I don't think it's actual, you know, genuine stuff for the wood there, but it looks nice and still feels nice with the open pore quality. And so, yeah, I'm not going to complain about that too much. I also like, you know, the metal trim you have around here with the big Armada logo. And then you have the center armrest, which has some padding to it. And you open that up and you'll see a little removable tray at the top, as well as a larger area down below there. And, you know, really nice to have that. I also just love, you know, you have like padding down by your knees here. It's not a ton, you know, it's wrapped, but there's not as much of a pillowy, soft nature to this like you might see on maybe a couple of the competitors. But, you know, again, this does feel more plush in my opinion than a lot of those competitors do. And so really well done up front here in the Armada. Moving on to the second row here in the Armada, it's of course more of that same goodness as far as the seats, and you know, the amount of space you have here is really good too. Now up front, they do say that you have about 4.2 inches of extra front legroom. I'm not sure, you know, what changes they made there. It doesn't seem like there's any gains to the second row legroom in particular, but even, you know, me being 5'9", sitting behind myself, you know, I still have plenty of room to spare there with that seat slid all the way back. But really nice seats back there. They have their own climate controls back there, and they also do have a nice little console here with this captain's chair setup where you have the cup holders, the USB-C jacks, and another little cubby there. Now you can also get a bench seat. Now bench is standard on the base trim, and it's also standard on the Pro 4X, but in all the others you can option on a bench or captain's chairs, and even like a fully loaded Platinum Reserves here you can get with a bench. And that's notable because some of the others do force you into captain's chairs in the higher trims. Not so with this. So if you want full seating capability and all the bells and whistles, Nissan's offering that, which is great that they are. And You also see they have a really beautiful double pane moonroof to look out of here. There's also biometric cooling here in these top two trims. That's an option as well, I believe, in the Pro 4X. And so that uses this little sensor here to see with the backseat passengers in particular, how they're feeling. And so, for example, if you're hanging out in a nice, comfy car, and then you have people coming in from the outdoors that maybe are really hot, even though the car might already be sitting at a certain temperature, it can then direct more cold air to the backseat occupants there and cool them off faster than, you know, a usual kind of you know, setup or them manually doing that. And you know, a really cool little touch. I don't know how well it's going to work in the real world, you know, as far as reliability goes, but I think, you know, it's a cool thing, and hopefully it does actually, you know, make things a little bit easier for, you know, people hopping in these. And just another cool idea, another thoughtful feature. And another thoughtful addition to that second row is the fact that those seats now, whenever you access the third row, those seats now tilt forward instead of collapsing like they used to. And so that means you can leave a car seat installed there in the second row, and it still gives you enough clearance to get, you know, the seat out of the way so you can access the third row that way if you need to, especially with the bench. Obviously with the middle pass-through in these captain's chairs, not as big of a deal, but it's great you have that tilting function so you can leave that car seat installed. I believe only one or maybe two of the competitors offers that, and none of the others really do. I know like the Chevy doesn't, and so, you know, really nice that you have that feature there as well. Then moving on to that third row here, though, that is, you know, a nice amount of space. And they claim 5.7 inches of extra third row legroom there, which I'm not sure about that number because I'm 5'9", me sitting behind myself. I still have my knees like resting like right up against the seat back there. So I mean, I fit for short distances, but if I was going to sit back there for a longer period of time, I'd have to ask that second row to scooch up a little bit so that I have, you know, enough space so my knees aren't digging into the seat back there. But it does work for adults, which is great. You know, headroom is also, you know, suitable for adults. And, you know, so it's good that they did improve that. But, you know, if you see that number, you know, just sit in it yourself and see, because, you know, you didn't gain 5 inches of third row legroom in my opinion, because otherwise that would have been unusable in the prior gen, and it was usable in the prior gen. So, you know, just try it on for size yourself, but certainly a nice improvement there in the third row as well. You also get an improvement in the cargo area, with that gaining nearly 4 cubic feet of space back there, and they say it's about 24% larger than before for a total of 20.4 cubic feet now. And so as far as that cargo area, it still is a little bit small. You know, I'd say it's in line with most of the others in this segment, but, you know, the big difference, though, is that the American brands still offer long wheelbase versions, so you can have actually enough cargo space to carry all the cargo for the, you know, 6, 7, 8 people you load up in these things. In this, you know, you're not able to do that, obviously, here. So, I mean, but that's something that Sequoia also has that same predicament. So, you know, it's not exclusive to the Armada here, but, you know, just one thing to note there. Beneath the floor, you will see there's a little bit of extra space, you know, but not a whole lot. And, you know, just your controls there on the right and on the left there. But, you know, still a good amount of cargo space. I'm glad they were able to kind of maximize that packaging a little bit, even though they didn't get this vehicle really any longer. They're able to still at least maximize what they had to work with here. And so, yeah, overall, this interior, though, is, again, very, very nice. And, you know, with this one being as plush as it is, you know, if you don't need to have the prestige of that Infiniti, I mean, this has all the creature comforts, very plush, very luxurious, and still has that wow factor. But let's start up and go for a drive. So the Armada here has the new Nissan key, and it's a nice key. It's just, I mean, it's plastic, you know, nothing super expensive feeling, but you have the little metal ridge there on it. And it's a pretty thin key, which I appreciate, and I really like this new Nissan key. It's nice they have a new one. They've used the old one for a long time. But of course, it is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start. So you just leave that key in your pocket, hit the engine start button here, and it starts right up. All right, so setting off here in the 2025 Armada. So the first thing you notice about this vehicle, I mean, I think, you know, in addition to just these super soft, comfortable seats, you have a really great driving position here. And Nissan strangely quoted a new metric that I've never heard mentioned before, and they say they have the highest eye point in this segment. So that means, you know, you're going to be feeling like you're sitting up even a little higher than, I guess, most of the competitors. I'd have to sit in all of them back to back to truly, you know, compare. But what I can say is you have a very commanding view of the road. It is really, you know, you feel like you're sitting up nice and high, not overboard, you know, it doesn't feel like you're sitting on top of the roof or anything, but it's very much, you know, a great view forward, nice large windshield, a pretty, you know, well done A-pillar area here too. You have the handle and stuff, but it's fairly thin and out of the way enough that it doesn't really block my view or anything. View out of the back is also good and is even better here whenever you have this camera rear view mirror. With that, everything that's in the back there, whether it's cargo or people, just disappears once you flip on that camera there. Always gives you a perfect view rearward, and a very nice thing to have here. Other things here to note though, so this one is on the 22-inch wheels. They're the largest wheels, but it does have the adaptive air suspension, and that's going to be really nice because it's going to smooth out the rougher ride sometimes you would have with big wheels in the past. You don't have that here. It's a really smooth ride, and again, working in combination with these very soft seats, it just gives you a really smooth ride going down the road here. And I do think that it does feel a little smoother than some of the competitors sometimes do, especially like Tahoe. I think you feel a little more trucky with the ride compared to this, and is just really, really well done. I don't know, if it's best in segment. Again, I'd have to drive them all back to back to truly say. I think Sequoia, from my memory, felt maybe a tiny bit smoother than this, possibly, but regardless, a really nice, smooth ride. It's also pretty quiet in here as well, and part of that's due to the fact that we have this all-new frame this vehicle is sitting on, with increases in torsional rigidity, and just the whole thing is able to be a little bit more sophisticated. So they're able to soften up the dampers there a little bit, and give you that really nice ride quality, and also isolating you a little bit more from the outside. And wind noise is pretty much non-existent. I mean, you have a little bit of road noise coming through for sure, but again, this is not a luxury segment vehicle still. That's what the Infiniti is for, which is, I think, even a little bit quieter still. I just recently spent some time in the new QX80, but yeah, this is gonna be totally fine even in silence. And then once you put on the awesome clip stereo here, or you have a conversation going, it's not going to be something that is coming to the forefront here. It's just a really nice vehicle. That also the handling, I don't know if we're gonna have any windy roads here. I'm not going to review this like a sports car, but as we're going around some gentle corners here, a few other big changes here. You have electronic power steering for the first time in the Armada, and I know that's something a lot of people like, the old-fashioned hydraulic steering, but in this here, it is nicely weighted and feels like it's connected to something, and feels very much good to use. And so I'm actually pretty happy with the steering. I thought maybe it would be a little bit lighter than it is. Now, it's not overboard with the weight, but it's just really well done. These have gained a little bit of weight here for this new generation as well. Not like it matters for a giant vehicle like this, but these will weigh between 5,700 to 5,900 pounds now for the curb weight, and so it's pretty par for the course though. Everything in this segment is about the same kind of weight, so no big deal there. And it's just going to give you a very solid feeling though going down the road. And just again, all the driving dynamics and stuff are really good, especially on these 22-inch wheels. I'm impressed, and it's not like you feel any kind of weight gain or anything. This thing feels so much more poised and controllable, honestly, compared to the last gen Armada, which again, just you could feel those dated bones, just wasn't quite as competent. And so now finally with this new gen Armada, everything feels evenly matched, feels all very under control, and very confidence inspiring. Also, brakes have a pretty good feel to them. There's a good bit of dead travel before you get into some biting there, and it's easy to be smooth with these brakes, which is great. Throttle response, also nice and strong. We have this new engine under the hood here. The V8 is gone, and we have in its place a 3.5-liter twin turbocharged V6 engine. And I'll talk more about that here in a second when we do an acceleration. But as far as just the engine characteristics, when you're just cruising around here and coasting, it's basically almost completely silent, just kind of again fades into the background there. But having those turbos now means you have this nice wave of torque, way more torque than before, to lean on here. And so climbing hills, all these types of things, it's just, it has to work a little bit less hard, I think, than the old V8 did. And now I've put it up into the sport mode here, and we're going to do an acceleration onto an on-ramp here, a little bit of a corner to it, but here we go. Okay. This thing moves. It's a strong motor. So yeah, 3.5-liter twin turbocharged V6 engine. And for the enthusiasts out there, this is an evolution of the GTR motor. It is not the GTR motor. This has actually been really custom tailored for truck duty, with this having some extra strengthening specific for towing and extra durability. But it shares the same engine family as the GTR. And as an enthusiast, having a little bit of the GTR in a way continuing on with this vehicle under the hood here, is something that, you know, just puts a smile on my face. But as far as the power, it's an impressive motor here. 425 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque. And the horsepower is a nice bump. That's 25 horsepower over the old V8. But the torque, that is 103 more pound-feet of torque than the old V8. And not only is it just a huge improvement for Armada, but it's also an improvement for these segments. Really blowing everyone else out of the water. Sequoia is the only one that's a little more powerful, but everybody else has less torque. None of them crack into the 500s other than Armada here. And so, you know, it's you know, going to feel a little punchier now. There wasn't any 0 to 60 time given for these. No one's drag racing these things, but you'll feel that torque and that torque advantage, especially over, you know, stuff like the Tahoe that still uses a V8, which is a strong motor, but, you know, is down, you know, 50 odd pound-feet of torque over this still. And so, you know, it's also paired up to this 9-speed automatic transmission, which is, you know, a smooth runner. It's, you know, had no issues here so far. Just, you know, really great as far as being intelligently programmed, giving me the gear I need when I need it, not hunting around too much or anything. Armada's available with either rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive on all trims, aside from the Pro 4X, which is four-wheel drive as standard. And so it's really great that you can get, you know, a fully loaded one and still have rear-wheel drive. And as far as that four-wheel drive system, so I'll talk more about that when I do a little bit of off-roading here in the Pro 4X version in a little bit. But as far as you know, the transfer case here, it's a 2-speed transfer case in everything except the base trim, where it's just a single-speed thing, but in everything else you have that low range there when you need it. And of course, all these drive modes here, you know, are going to be able to give you that extra capability here with, you know, the sand and the mud and snow modes, you know, all these different modes here to make sure that, you know, you can tackle whatever you need to tackle with confidence. As far as towing is concerned, these can tow 8,500 pounds, and they have an integrated trailer brake controller now for the first time, as well as, you know, being able to, for example, have like the blind spot monitoring work with a trailer. You can tell it how long your trailer is, and it can make sure that it has that covered. It also has a trailer brake checker, so you can, you know, check, make sure everything's hooked up right and all that. And you know, I'm not a tower, so I'm not going to be able to weigh in intelligently on that component, but it's great that you have, you know, 8,500 pounds of capability there. And you know, with how strong this motor is, again, should be a pretty good tower, I'm assuming. And you know, just really great that you have that great capability. But I'm also going to go ahead, now that we're on the highway here, I'm going to go ahead and put it up into the Pro Pilot Assist. We've Pro Pilot Assist 2.1 here on these vehicles. And so with the 2.1 version, that is actually hands-free. You do get regular Pro Pilot Assist 1 as standard in lower versions of the Armada. That does still give you adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist as standard, but whenever you go up, it's available as an option. It's an expensive option. It's roughly about $3,000 for this hands-free function, but whenever you get it, that's a purchase price for life. It's not a subscription thing, which is great. And you know, just it's going to be awesome whenever you're on, you know, long highway drives to have that hands-free capability. So I'm going to turn that on here and see how that does. Okay, so I turned the system on. Unfortunately, it says HD map under maintenance, so I guess either this road isn't mapped or it's just not wanting to do it right now for whatever reason. So I will see if it comes back on eventually here. But in the meantime, you know, it is just going to be kind of similar to the other hands-free systems you see from competitors, from, you know, GM and Ford in particular. And so with this, you're able to do hands-free driving. Now, it does have a driver monitoring sensor. You have to keep your eyes on the road and be paying attention, you know, the whole time. But whenever you do have that hands-free mode, not only does it do, you know, just hands-free driving there, but it also will do auto lane changes. And you know, just be very intelligent with that assistance there. And I did try it briefly in the QX80, you know, not too long ago, and in there it was hit or miss. It did work sometimes, but didn't stay engaged as long as my experiences with Blue Cruise and especially Super Cruise from GM. That is still the gold standard as far as hands-free stuff, in my opinion. It's awesome that Nissan's doing this, because this is something that, you know, I think Jeep is trying to start doing here eventually with Wagoneer. Sequoia is making no attempts at that yet. You know, so it's great that we have this here to keep up and, you know, stay competitive with, you know, those others in the segment. But unfortunately, you know, from my last experience, it, you know, wasn't perfect. Now we will see if it gets if it works here on these roads or not eventually, to test it out a little more. But regardless, it's a cool option to have here. It'll come down to, again, the roads around you and how well they're mapped. That's something that, Nissan is continuing to work on and add more roads as time goes on here. But it is worth noting, if you want the ultimate hands-free experience, the GM system has now expanded off of highways onto many 2-lane roads you can now super cruise on as well. So again, I think if you're really focused on doing the hands-free thing, GM is probably still going to be the way to go with that, but it's great you have it all here in this. Other quick high-level safety stuff here, you get everything as standard. So safety tech, especially in these more expensive models these days, everything is standard. You have standard adaptive cruise control, standard lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring, automatic emergency braking, rear cross traffic alert. Literally every single thing you can think of is standard here. The only thing that isn't standard, which is more of a convenience thing than a safety thing, is the 360 camera. That is something that you got to go up to some of these higher trims to get. And that is something, especially for a vehicle this large, it's really nice, and Nissan does it very well. And also, there's other smart things that I don't think I've seen before. They even, for example, have cameras that can kind of see around obstacles to the left or the right of you. And so they gave an example of, for example, if you're coming up to an intersection where you frequently have to look around a hedge or something like that, or you're trying to, have a situation where you just have a little bit of a blockage. Not only will it look around that hedge or that house or whatever is blocking your view, but it can also intelligently geotag that. You can select it and say, I come up to this intersection every day, I need to see around this hedge every single day, and it'll automatically bring up that camera view for you every single time without you doing anything when you come up to that intersection. And that's the kind of smart stuff that it doesn't require insane computing or insane engineering to do, but it's just one of those things that it's like, why didn't everyone else think of that? Really smart that it does have that available there. And the new Pro 4X version does a very good job of using those cameras as well, with Nissan even covering the windshield and providing obstacles for us to maneuver around to show just how valuable they can be, with that invisible hood view being especially handy on steep grades. But first, the main extras you get for the Pro 4X are listed there, and while I didn't drive that one on-road, I did get to take it off-road on a course that had to be shortened due to very muddy conditions, unfortunately. I'm not sure how many people even take the Pro 4X off-road, so I won't spend much time on this, but in addition to the air suspension's ability to raise itself an additional 2.1 inches for 9.6 inches of ground clearance total, it also has a 33-degree approach angle, a 25.5-degree breakover angle, and a 24.5-degree departure angle. The mud drive mode certainly helped in the challenging conditions we had, but more aggressive mud terrain tires would have helped even better. These do come with legit all-terrain tires though, and admittedly, trying to move 6,000 pounds in mud isn't going to be easy no matter what. But the main takeaway is that it seems capable enough, and it's great they're offering this since this kind of trim continues to be more and more popular on just about every SUV these days, and Nissan's Pro 4X trims on other models are among their strongest sellers, so I'm sure even for the mall crawlers, this trim will be one of the most sought after. So other than that, everything else is really nice. We don't have fuel economy ratings here yet for these officially. It's the same setup as what you have in QX80 from a powertrain standpoint and size. Obviously, QX80 is a little heavier, so maybe this could do a tiny bit better fuel economy-wise compared to QX80, but I would bank on essentially QX80 fuel economy. And so that would mean 16 mpg in the city, 19 on the highway, and 17 combined. Again, I don't know if that's a fuel economy rating, but it gives you an idea of what you can probably expect. If this cracks into 20s, I'd be, pretty surprised, but that's kind of what you're dealing with. But I mean, this is a gigantic vehicle. It's heavy, it's powerful. Now the good news though is that this motor does run on 87. So those horsepower ratings, all that stuff, that is done on 87 octane fuel. And some of the others do, say, oh, we got to put premium in to get maximum efficiency or maximum power. Not so with this. So you can pump it full of 87, be totally good, and no worries there. And that's significant whenever you're talking about a giant tank that you are going to be burning through fairly quickly. And so great that they've set it up for 87. And then really the last thing to mention here though is the pricing and how it compares to the competition. And that is an area where they did a very, very good job. The starting price is the same as last year, the 2024, the old dated Armada. This is the same starting price, so that means it has a starting price of $58,000 and change here. And You know, at that about $58,500 price tag, it does have a clear price advantage. It comes in comfortably about $2,000 less than Tahoe, which is the next cheapest one, starting right at around $60,500 for that. Now, these fully loaded can get up to about $82,000 before you put on like the few other options. Like, so again, this you know, Pro Pilot Assist 2.1 system, you know, that is about $2,900. So, you know, that puts you at 85, you know, maybe a few other little things you add on. You know, I'm sure if you really try hard, you can get probably one of these close to 90. You know, realistically, we're talking, you know, mid 80s here loaded up for one of these. And that's important because that does give this, you know, a good price gap between QX80. And as far as how that compares to those competitors, again, everything's more expensive, and it just comes down to, you know, preferences. Now, I think, you know, again, Tahoe is the closest competitor in my mind, and for the people who still want a V8, Tahoe is the last one standing with a V8 engine. And, you know, that's going to come down to how you feel about that. But, you know, the thing I really love about the Tahoe is, again, that Super Cruise system, and with how well it works, that it's intelligent with its positioning in the lane, and it's, I mean, Super Cruise is just unmatched these days still. So I really think that, you know, that's the you know, the top competitor. Now, the thing with Tahoe, they do get more expensive in the upper end there. You can, you know, get one that comes in almost 90 grand, you know, so it just comes down to, again, which options and how you, what is important to you and what isn't. The other one, though, that is also a very solid value proposition, in my opinion, is the Jeep Wagoneer. The Wagoneer comes in at $61,000, so still more expensive than this. Everything's, you know, more expensive. But what I can say is with the Wagoneer, you have smaller screens in the Wagoneer at that higher price point. You know, you have like a 10-inch screen, so this has a clear advantage from a tech standpoint. The tech was also pretty glitchy in the Wagoneer, unfortunately, whenever I had one of those for a week. And so the only area where Wagoneer is a strong competitor is in the upper end, because basically Wagoneer loads up around 81,000, so slightly less than this. I mean, you know, 1 or 2 grand, give or take, is not going to make a difference when you're talking about vehicles this expensive and those top trims, but, you know, it's just worth noting that you can, you know, have that. The nice thing is Wagoneer and all of the competitors, though, aside from Sequoia, offer a long wheelbase version, and, you know, that extra length of the Wagoneer L. You know, you have Suburban, of course, alongside Tahoe there, and then Expedition has the L version. I'd like to see Nissan honestly do something like that someday, because I think, you know, there is a decent amount of volume for those long wheelbase versions too. But you know, that is one other thing to note. If you want extra cargo space, you know, all those competitors have that covered. Another competitor that's brand new here, very impressive, is the new Ford Expedition, but those are about $5,000 more expensive basically on every trim across the board. It's about 5 grand higher to start, and it comes in about 5 grand higher, you know, loaded up. And the new Expedition is very impressive. I did go hands-on with that. I haven't driven that new Expedition yet, but I mean, huge screen, lots of thoughtful features, like it has the split tailgate, so you can, you know, have the lower part there that drops down and still have the upper part. And there's some really smart, you know, things they've thought through for Expedition that I think, you know, is very impressive. But again, you're paying a 5 grand premium, and even with that, you still have less horsepower, less torque. And, you know, there's still a little bit of a compromise there. I think, again, at the end of the day, the Nissan is the best value. And the last kind of distant competitor to me is the Toyota Sequoia. Those start at like 64 grand, so much higher than this. You do have more power, and it's a hybridized powertrain, although it's not, you know, going to get you very good fuel economy still. You know, it's pretty similar to all these others as far as fuel economy goes, but it's a very strong runner. You know, I did a full review of that. I towed with the new Sequoia. It's a very, very strong motor in that as well, and it's, you know, a nice vehicle, but I can say without a doubt Sequoia feels tighter inside. You have less headroom, which is a little bit just smaller overall. The cargo space in the Sequoia is kind of odd because they had to make space for a hybrid battery, and so just it's not, the cargo space is not good in the Sequoia. So the price premium plus, you know, just the bad packaging, honestly, in my opinion, just makes Sequoia not really a great competitor, to be completely honest. And so I think that Nissan's carved out a nice niche here, you know, having something that comes in less expensive than all the others, while still giving you top-notch luxury, top-notch tech, better power. You know, they've basically beat everyone for the most part as far as checking all the boxes, and then going one step further and then doing it at an aggressive price point. And, you know, that's impressive that, you know, they're able to do that in these days of ballooning prices. The fact that the starting price hasn't changed, with all these improvements is really, really impressive. And you know, when you go up to the higher trims, you know, these platinums and stuff, there is a couple grand, you know, price premium over what you had you know, last year. So you know, it's not across the board where it stays the same with the price, but you know, they kept the price in check, and you know, I commend them for that. And so overall, yeah, really happy with the Armada here, though. Just kind of a little bummed I wasn't able to get that hands-free system to work there to test that out a little bit. But you know, I'm going to hopefully have one of these for a full week. I'll test it on my own highways, see how it does, especially the windy highways in southwestern Pennsylvania, which are a little more challenging for these systems. So definitely subscribe and stay tuned to hear my extended thoughts of driving this vehicle after, you know, a full week, and giving some more in-depth, you know, living with kind of impressions with it. But makes a very good first impression, and yeah, I think it's a top contender now, and it just really comes down to, again, what you value the most. But it's hard to argue against their Armada, and that's so good to say, because this vehicle has been, you know, dated for a long time. Armada was always like the ancient one on a super old platform, you know, using this old V8 with everyone else switching to turbo V6s a couple of years ago, some even earlier than that, you know. And I'm just so happy we have, you know, brand new product, and not only just finally a new Armada, but a top-notch new Armada that holds its own against everyone else in the segment, and really, I think, beats many of them in many ways. So overall, that's all of my thoughts here on the 2025 Armada. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Nissan, though, for providing me here with this opportunity to review the Armada here for you guys today. Yeah, thank you all very much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.